Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sirens Streams. Today we have Kellen Mace with us. We're going to work with some headless WordPress. Pretty exciting. How are you doing today, Kellen?
Woohoo! I'm pumped. I'm doing
Yes.
fantastic. We, Brittany and I were just talking. We're in a similar part of the world in the U.S. here, and we have some warm weather coming our way later today. So we're excited about that. But I'm doing great. I'm a big fan of Brittany and of Svelte Sirens and of Svelte. So good things all around. So I'm happy to be on today. I'll give
Thank you so
a real
much.
brief intro, I guess. So I've been working on the web for years and years, and a lot of that time has been spent in WordPress, which, as folks tuning in may know, is like hugely popular, right? The stat is like something like 43% of the internet is running WordPress, which is pretty staggering when you think about it. And it's one of those rare web projects that's like been around a long time, but it's still incredibly popular and well used, and they're doing releases constantly. So it is staying relevant, and a lot of people use it. So I work at WP Engine on the developer relations team, and my team and I produce a lot of content. A lot of it is specific to using WordPress as a headless CMS. So for
Oh,
folks on this stream, if you're interested in like building SvelteKit apps and then being able to source your data from a headless WordPress backend and render that, use that to render the content of your app, that's what we're going to do on this stream. That's what my team is all about. So you can find our stuff at developers.wpengine.com if you're interested in that kind of stuff, or stay tuned on the stream and see it here.
absolutely. That is so exciting. I can't believe how much WordPress has even increased during the pandemic. It's like gotten even more of a foothold, which
Yeah,
is kind of crazy. So one
right.
of the questions I have before we get started is, do you need to know any PHP to do headless WordPress?
Excellent question. The answer used to be yes, but it's increasingly, gone down to no. So I would say unless you're doing really custom things, then the answer is no. So at this point, it's possible to, as we'll see, you can install the Wpgraphql plugin, which turns your WordPress backend into a GraphQL API. And then from there, if you just want to query WordPress for all the built-in things that it has, like posts and pages and users and categories and tags, all of those kind of data structures, it's all just there in the GraphQL API. So you can query for that data and render it out in your app all day long. So that part works great. But once you get into like custom content types and especially like doing mutations, where you're authenticating the user client side and pushing data into WordPress, that stuff can get a bit more complicated, or sometimes you have to, dive into the PHP and add an extra GraphQL, resolver to handle that mutation, that kind of thing.
Ah, yep.
But yeah, we're unless you're getting to that level, if you just have a kind of a, marketing site, brochure site, blog, any of that, like no PHP.
Awesome. Well, if we're
Yeah.
going to see most of this stuff, why don't we go ahead and just jump into the code here? I will go ahead and share my screen. And do we
All
need
right.
to just get a new SvelteKit app up and running first?
Yep. Yeah, we can do that, and then head over to the WordPress admin. I was going to show folks like how to install that plugin and test out some queries, but yeah, we can just scaffold out our app first here.
Okay,
Thank you.
so just run our npm init svelte next. I'm going to call this WordPress. What do we want to call it? What are we building?
I don't know. I was trying to think of a fun name. I was thinking about your if you haven't done this already, I know you have codingcat.dev and you have a few web
Yeah.
properties, but if you haven't done this already, like you could do blog postma, could be like the name of your blog.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
That is so great.
you've probably thought of this before, but
I have
uh,
not thought of that before. I've thought of lots of funny little things like Be Designed is my LLC. So B,
oh
because
yeah,
but I do more with my first name, but Blog Postma is pretty funny. We'll go with that. So that's what we're going to call our app today. We'll go ahead and scaffold this out.
sweet.
Yes. Just the skeleton project.
Yeah, let's do that.
And do you want to do TypeScript, Pretty, or ESLint?
I'd say no for this demo. Keep it simple.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
I do that a
and
lot.
ESLint prettier. We could do either way.
Okay, I just ran through that with no, so
Sure.
we'll go ahead and Let's see if this works this time to open that up in here. Perfect.
Woohoo.
Sometimes that works for me and sometimes it doesn't. And I don't know if it's because I'm on WSL on Windows. Just okay. So we're installing that. And do we want to go ahead and jump over to the browser and get some of the WordPress stuff going?
Yeah. Yeah. So at this point, people may, be familiar with just in the routes folder, like creating new Svelte pages and entering their markup there. But the more interesting thing for us to look at probably is how do I, source some data from WordPress so that I can use it in my app. So yeah, the next step I think would be logging into the WordPress admin and just seeing how we can turn it into a GraphQL API layer.
Okay, we're going to go with this. Every screen on my computer just completely disappeared, except for, I hope everybody can see because I can't see StreamYard anymore. So we're going to hope that everything works. Can you see my screen okay?
I can see your browser, so we're good. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and sign in. Is this where I need some of the passwords and secrets you sent me, or?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So if you have a way off screen to like copy that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fine.
And let me pull this off for just a second here. Of course, now everything is gonna. Sorry about this. I was mentioning to Kellen right before we started that I was having some lag issues and I was going to restart, and I did not do that, and I really should have. And this is a really long password that will not let me copy it. So I really apologize to everyone. If we want to have some like banter, or if I hope no one has questions today because I can't see StreamYard.
So you can't copy it because it's too long. You said I can send it in.
Well, it
Twitter
has a big. Yeah, the password was wrong because it just like has a big. Okay.
Put it in Twitter if that helps at all. If you want to copy
That
from there.
does
Otherwise we can do a reset.
Okay, that worked.
Cool.
Now let's get that back over there. Okay.
Nice. Yeah, so what we're looking at here is just a brand new WordPress install. Really, there's nothing to it. There's probably like one sample blog post at the moment. So let's actually add like maybe a second one. So over on the left, you go to posts, and then maybe we'll add a second.
Add a new one there.
Yeah, how about it? So I think you just hit next on that or exit out, either way. Okay. I'm trying to teach you about WordPress's new block editor. So yeah, for title, you just blog post number 2 or whatever it may be. Yes. I can see this on social media. You could say, if you want to learn the greatest in Svelte, such and such, be sure to visit blog postma. And that would be your blog. That has to happen. Awesome.
There we go. I got StreamYard back up. Perfect. Everyone can see. They said my camera is lagging too, so I apologize to everyone. I'm going to go ahead and throw us off screen too, so the screen is bigger, and that way it doesn't matter. Maybe I'll just stop my camera. I've been having some issues with it. Okay. Now let's go ahead and do we just want to throw some Lorem Ipsum in here? What do we want to throw in here?
Yeah, whatever you think. You can just type a like little one-liner or Lorem Ipsum, something like that.
Cat Ipsum is Cat Ipsum and Boop Ipsum.
Perfect.
I don't know if you have heard of Boop Ipsum, but Jason Lingstorff has Phil Hawksworth created it for Jason, and it's hilarious. But this one's pretty funny too.
I have. Okay. I remember seeing that. Yeah. Yeah, that'll work.
Okay, so we just save this here.
Yep. Yep. So this would be for folks tuning in. This is getting prompted for
that was my password thing, not.
I got it.
Save draft, and then you can publish. Okay.
Yeah, then it'll be public for us to consume in GraphQL.
Perfect.
Yeah, so for folks at home, this would be your content creators, logging into the WordPress admin. This workflow, this is how the workflow would look for them, just creating new posts or editing posts and then publishing those. So now if we hit like the little W icon, the WordPress logo there on the left, we should see, now we have a total of 2 Yeah, so there we go. Just our 2 blog posts on the list. So at this point, we have to ask ourselves, like, how are we going to get this data out of WordPress then to use it, in our SvelteKit app. So we can do that by installing a plugin called Wpgraphql. So over on the left, if you go to plugins, right there we go. Yeah, and then add new, and we can find that on the list. So WP GraphQL.
Is it all together?
Yeah, I think it's under both. So I think either way.
Didn't find that.
Let's see. Are we
WP.
Let me see.
I don't see it in the list either. WP, and it's just all together one word, or is it WP and then space GraphQL?
So I was able to find it.
Oh, there it is. I don't know why I didn't find it the first time.
There we go. Yeah, so hit install now. Maybe we're missing a character or something. I'm not sure, but
I love the little
there we
elephant.
go. Yeah. All right, and then hit activate on that one. There we are. All right, so this magical plugin exposes all of your WordPress data via GraphQL. It's super powerful. So then you can take that and use it, anywhere else. So in our case, that would be a SvelteKit app. And before we leave WordPress here, I wanted to do show off one more thing I think is cool, and that's the ability to really easily compose your queries. So if you, over on the left sidebar, if you hover over GraphQL there toward the bottom, and then, yep, right there, and then go to Graphical IDE.
Okay.
I think this is super cool. Are you familiar with
this is probably
GraphQL?
pretty familiar to most people if you've worked with GraphQL before. I think it's in most of the GraphQL things now.
Yep. Yeah, so from here, we can click a few of those buttons at the top, like go to Query Composer.
Okay.
Like that. So folks may be used to this view, so this,
Mm-hmm.
so what happens is the graphical app running in the browser here, it just runs an introspection query and asks GraphQL, tell me all the data that's available in the whole schema. And then it receives that and builds this, accordion or this, drop down list here. So you can click around and check some boxes and compose your queries. So yeah, posts, is probably where we should go. So we could do edges or nodes. Nodes would, is where I start, unless I need some edge data.
Okay. What's the difference in those two?
Yeah, so this is part of the GraphQL specification. So nodes is the right choice if all you care about is each individual node, for the thing that you're querying. Edges, though, gives you, it's this extra layer of nesting that's necessary if you need some contextual edge data, it's called. So one example of that would be if you're doing pagination, you may want like the first set of nodes or the second set of nodes or the third set. So if you're doing either page-based or like offset-based or
so
or
kind of filtering your nodes in a way?
Yeah, you can do filtering there, and it's or pagination data or other things like that. That
makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of controlling like how the nodes that you're about to query, how they relate to other things. So you can say, I want the next 10, but don't start at the beginning. Instead, start, further on because I'm on page 3 or whatever it may be. So
okay. So what are some of the data points that we're going to want to create here? We're probably going to want like author.
Yeah, so let's grab some ones that we care about. Let's do author, and then that one will have its own node. So we'll need to do we'll just grab that person's name. How about
first name, last name? Let's do that.
Okay. And then do the date, content and date. How about
content and date right here? Content.
Yep, that looks good. And how about featured image? That one, I don't think we have any right now, but that's one we could show off.
If and is there, like with some CMSs, you have like the image and then you have more detailed to get down to like the URL that you need for it. How is that this media item URL?
That is, So there's media item URL and then source URL.
Okay.
I don't remember the distinction there. I usually use source URL though.
Okay.
And then you can grab alt text as well. So we have that for accessibility.
Perfect. Yep.
Yeah. So if we hit the play icon then in the upper left, we can fire this off and test it out.
And we get our 2 queries back. And we obviously didn't put my name in for the author on this because that is not coming back.
Yeah. So let me take a look at that. So you are the author.
Oh, that's on a different post. Maybe.
Yeah, it could be a permissions thing. Let me see. See the little avatar icon next to the play button? There's a little avatar. This is a new addition to Graphical. So let's see. Switch to execute the logged in user. So try clicking that. Let's see what that does.
And then hit play again.
Yeah, now execute it.
We're still getting null.
Still null. Okay. Yeah, I can look at maybe that author isn't public. But yeah, we can charge ahead and see how we can use this data in our Svelte front end, even without the author popping through. I'll look into that.
Okay, sounds great. So do I need to copy this query for now, or do we want to just leave it here for later?
Yeah, we can go ahead and copy that and then head back to the SvelteKit app and see where we can use it.
Perfect. So this is our basic SvelteKit application. We got everything installed and up and running. Is there anything we need to install to go ahead and get started?
There's not. If folks who are listening, if you're doing a production project, then you might want a legit GraphQL client, something like Apollo or Urkel or something like that does like in-memory caching and fancy stuff like that. For us, though, I thought we'd keep it simple and just use the fetch API to fetch our data. So yeah, we can do that. So I was thinking like we could create a new page inside of routes and then use fetch like inside of the load function that SvelteKit provides. Go ahead and fetch our data.
Are we going to do a folder with multiple routes, like dynamic routes, or is it just going to be a single route file?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, let's do that. So how about, can you create a new folder and name it blog for blog postma? And then, yeah, inside of that, we can do it in index would be index.svelte. Yeah, so that would be our list page. So we could start with that maybe and get like a list of blog posts going and then worry about an individual blog post, after that.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and open up the context module. Is that what we need here?
Yep, you got it.
Okay. And we're going to do the load function. So we need, is there an export in front of that? I haven't typed it by myself in so long.
There is. Yep, I got the cheat sheet for you. Export async function load.
Async.
Yeah.
I have like little snippets that do all of these things, and it's amazing how much you forget that. Okay.
Right.
And
I have a bunch of those forget, like commit things or pull things or whatever. I'm always doing like 2 characters at a time. And every once in a while, I have to remind myself, what is it running behind the scenes again?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got that there. Good. And we pulled out fetch because you said you wanted to use the built-in fetch functionality. So I assumed that we're going to be using that.
Yep, absolutely. So I guess before we make our fetch request, one more thing we need to copy is our GraphQL endpoint, where to send it. Before we do that, though, I know you already have on your clipboard your query, so we can go ahead and paste that. So how about let's do like const query equals and then backticks for a template literal. Yeah.
And we just paste it right in here.
Yep.
And we're going to call this something else. This is post. And well,
post, yeah.
It's convention to name it like that, right? With a capital P.
Yeah, I've seen both. Both done. Like I know in the Apollo GraphQL documentation, I think they do capitals, but I've seen a lot of projects do lowercase. So.
And someone mentioned we also should grab title an ID,
Oh, yeah.
which is not a bad idea. So we're going to go ahead and do that too.
So you know what? Let's do this. I'll send you my, we can do this in Twitter, I guess. I'll send you my query that I'd used on another project. That'll probably work well for us because we're missing a couple things. It's very similar to ours, just a few different items on it.
Oh, and I put it inside. Does it need to have that query on it? You just sent me the inside part. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a great question. You can omit it and just have a curly brace actually, but I don't recommend it. And the reason for that is for easier debugging. You know, if you have an app where you're running like a couple different GraphQL queries, maybe and one of them's erroring out. A lot of times if you use like the Apollo dev tools, you know, or even just the network tab, if one of them is failing, if you have the name of the query there, I find like that makes it easier to hunt it down and figure out which one is the issue.
Yeah, it tells you the name of it so you can find it easier. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but technically speaking, yeah, you could omit it entirely and just start with, you know, the word query or even curlies, I think, and it would still work out. So
awesome.
Yeah, so that's looking good to me. Do you want to grab the GraphQL endpoint then? We can do that over in WordPress.
Okay, I need to open that back up.
Yeah, so back over here.
There we go.
All right, so what I like to do is over in the sidebar under GraphQL there, if you go to settings, right toward the top. Yeah, right there.
Oh,
right toward the top, it'll have your endpoint. Yeah, so see the blue link right there?
This
so right
one?
below where you're. Yeah, that one. Yep, so if you right click and then just copy that one.
Okay.
Yep, that'll be where we need to send our requests. So back in SvelteKit now, we can do our fetch and make use of that.
Awesome.
So we can do like const response equals.
Is that okay?
Yep. And then
shorten it.
Fetch. Sure, yeah. And then fetch, and then inside the parens is we can paste that.
Are we gonna await it?
Oh yeah, good point. Forgot to say await. Await fetch, and then yeah, inside of parentheses we'll
just
paste, get some quotes, and then paste our string in there.
Quotes and paste our string. Perfect.
Yeah. So in a production app, I would probably tell folks to make an environment variable, you know, and then pull that in here, inject it at this point. But for us, just hard coding it here will work just fine.
And this is a public endpoint, so it doesn't technically matter. Is that correct? I'm just asking. Since it's a public endpoint, we're fetching from a public. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so there's no security issues at all. You could hard code this in your app, ship it to production, and like not, no problem there. But if you wanted the ability to swap it out, like maybe if you're working locally, you have a local copy of WordPress, you might want to point to that, when you're in development mode, whereas on production, point somewhere else, so.
Absolutely. So do we need anything else on this, like headers or anything, or we just need to leave the URL like that?
Yeah, we'll add a couple of things. So we'll do method : and then post. So yeah, so do so put it in quotes and then all caps.
Oh, yep. Okay.
Yep. Comma. Yeah. Next line. We can do headers : and then some curlies. Yeah, and then in quotes, content dash type with the capital T and CNT. Yep, you got it. And then application / JSON.
Is JSON caps? No.
It's lowercase.
Okay.
That looks good. All right, and then the last line, so comma here, and then last line would be body : Yep, and this one we can do JSON all caps .stringify. Yep, and then a set of curlies here to pass in an object and the word query. So that the query, constant there that we defined above, that that thing will pass in here and stringify that as the body.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that should be it. So from here, I pretty much follow the SvelteKit docs, where they say once it comes back, they do if response.ok, then go ahead and use it. otherwise return an error. Yep. So you do that, and
then we need to do return the props for the script to come back. So do we need anything before that?
Yeah. So at this point, we'll just need to pull out the body of the response. So we can do const like payload or const response object, something like that.
Okay. Yep.
Whatever we want to call that. Yeah, there we go. And then equals await response.json.
Okay.
Yeah, with curlies. Yep, that looks good to me. And then on a new line, we can even pull out of that one more thing. So we'll do const posts equals response obj dot posts dot nodes.
Post.nodes. And this is pulling off our post. And then we're going to return those as props down here.
Yep. Props. Yeah. Curlies and then just posts. Yeah. So this is how the GraphQL request look. So for those listening, like the cool thing, one of the cool things about GraphQL is how you sent in the query, your data comes back in that same shape. So if you're wondering, where do we get this whole, response object dot posts dot nodes, those levels of nesting there, it looks like that just because if we scroll up, that's how our query looks. So if we would have done, remember that edges layer I was talking about? If we would have done like posts and then edges and then nodes in all these fields, then you would see that in the response. It would be posts.
A different structure.
Yeah, so that looks great.
So if you ran into anything here, this is where you would kind of console log to debug like where it would be happening. And I kind of skipped ahead a little bit, and I already went ahead and opened the script tag and got the props into the script tag.
Beautiful.
So what do we need for our markup? Do we need anything there so we could actually see it?
Yes. So what I like to do just to get things up and running is just grab the titles, so maybe we could do you want to do an H1 that just says blog post since that's our site?
Oh, just in hard-coded?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the H1. Yeah, and then maybe below that we can, loop over our posts. So we can do.
Okay, we're going to do an each block. Each post
as post.
Do we want to destructure anything or just grab post to make it easy?
Probably just post because we have a fair amount of fields on there.
Yeah.
Okay. I would probably just do post. Yeah, and maybe inside that, for now, do you want to do just a paragraph tag with post.title inside?
I'm going to do an H2 to make it like semantic. Okay, and let's do npm run dev here. See if we can get our server up and running. I'm going to make this bigger so we make sure nothing went wrong. Of course, it opens on the other screen. Go ahead and
fingers crossed. Let's do it.
There we go. Let's see if we have anything on. We put that on our /blog, so we need to go. I'm going to minimize that to /blog. Cannot read property nodes. So let's do what I suggested earlier and console.log res object. And I'm going to put this on the right side so I can see more of this. That's where we got our error. Cannot read property nodes.
Right. Oh, maybe we skipped a level, actually.
Did you have data or something in here before nodes?
You got it. Exactly right. Yep. Data dot. Good call. I think that's it. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Hooray.
Error solved.
Success.
That was kind of weird, though. I didn't see my console log coming. So the load function runs once on the server and then again on the client. So we should have actually saw the console log like in the terminal and on the client, but I didn't see it there. But let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah. So I at first I didn't understand how that worked. It sounded inefficient to me. I'm like, it runs on the server and then again on the client. Why are we doing the work twice? But then I realized that that really smart caching is going on, right? That like the fetch that gets passed in isn't just the vanilla fetch. It's like a fetch with some caching
A
behind it.
little
So it knows
enhanced.
it knows if I've already fired off this exact request with these same parameters and I have the data, then when it gets to the client, it pulls from the cache instead of hitting the network, which is so slick. I love that.
Someone had a great question. Why do you need the extra script with the export let post? So this is how Svelte handles props. And so we are actually getting the props up here and returning them, but we need to get them into our component. So this script tag is a little different than this script tag. This context module is the one that we were just talking about that runs on the server and then again on the client. But once we're in the client, we need to be able to get those props into our component. So that is what this export let post does.
Yeah, I've heard Rich Harris, the creator of Svelte, I've heard him, talk about this in a conference talk or somewhere else and say like, yeah, the syntax is a bit weird, but just go with it. After doing it a couple of times, you'll be so used to it. So I guess I think there are technical reasons that exists.
Actually, for me, it gives me this visual model of the way that we use modules. And so if you're importing a module, you're importing a prop into a component, you obviously need to export it. So it made so much sense to me.
Right. Yeah, me too. Yeah, that top script block that's a module, I think of that as being, that would be something that you might like just in speaking generally in JavaScript world. If you have a JavaScript file, you're importing some module from somewhere else. You're saying I want to use stuff from this file, but not all of those variables are like available to you. If that library has its own variables, not all of those are necessarily available for you to start using or whatever. But the second script tag, that's the one that's actually in line and has access to the things that you've imported from the module. So if you do export let posts, it's able to pull posts from the module. That's kind of the way I think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that analogy. And this is so easy. And this is one of the things I love about Svelte is this is just vanilla JavaScript. We're just hitting that endpoint and grabbing some data, and it's dynamic and it's just JavaScript and it just kind of works. The only Svelte stuff is really like doing this kind of export syntax we were just talking about, and then our little markup sugar syntax that we have, which is makes it easier to read for me.
Mm-hmm.
But we got like all that GraphQL stuff set up pretty easily and got it all in. So what's the next thing that we can do? It looks like this is only pulling one blog post for us. So,
well, there's two. The Hello World one that's also a blog post.
Oh, that's also a blog post. Okay, so could we do like a link and do the dynamic ones now? Does that make sense? Like doing a link? Do we have a URL to be able to set up to go to a dynamic route?
Yep, we do. We can fire off one of those queries next. So I was thinking maybe first we can wrap these in links, so instead of having just the titles printed out, maybe we can have an anchor tag somewhere there that points to, that links over to the single post page for that.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Is there like a slug that goes to each blog post that we got back?
Yeah, so I think we have post.uri. I think that'll work for us. So if we do, ahref, and inside of that, so let's hard code /blog at the beginning of it.
Yeah, yep. Okay, so we probably need some backticks.
Yeah,
in there. And /blog.
Yeah, and then post.uri.
Post.uri.
Yeah, and actually the slash that you have before the $, that one we shouldn't need because URI has its own slug. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And if we click on these, obviously it's not going to go anywhere because we don't have that set up in our application yet.
Right. Yeah, that all looks good to me. And we can do an excerpt. Maybe that's a very WordPressy thing. A lot of blogs you go to. So maybe, if we want to do like a paragraph tag, we could do post.excerpt. And one thing to note here is that if we render this out, we might get actually HTML on the page. Yeah. So see, we have the paragraph. Everything's being escaped there. So that's when Svelte has, is it a directive? Is that the right term? It has the @HTML.
At HTML.
Little sugar syntax there. Yeah, there you go.
Is that called a directive? I don't even know.
I forget.
I use them as template blocks, is what I call them, but I don't know what the actual name of them are. This one is the same, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we did @HTML and we got the post.excerpt.
Yep. Yeah. So it's starting to look similar to, a lot of blogs that folks have probably been to with the, titles, the link titles, and then an excerpt. So yeah, we can do, we can spend more time making it pretty and things, or probably what's more interesting is, see that the single blog post page.
Absolutely. Next. All right. So we need to make a dynamic route here. Correct?
Yep.
Okay.
So let's name it, so in square brackets, slug .svelte.
Okay.
That'll work.
And so we've got slug.svelte. And do we need to do something similar as over here? So maybe I could just copy this to save.
Yeah, right. Yeah, a lot of that boilerplate we'll need. So
we're going to have to change our query.
Swap out.
And we're going to have to change. Do we have to change the endpoint? Does it hit like it hits the same endpoint, right? It's GraphQL. There's one endpoint.
Exactly. Yep. Everything. Yeah. Channeled right through that same endpoint.
So this post might change. This post variable might change. And then our query is obviously going to change because we need to do some filtering and selection.
Yeah.
And that.
Yeah.
So should we go to the playground to do that, or?
Sure. Let's do it. Yeah. Head back to the IDE. And how about we'll show people one more thing. So we can wipe out that old query. How about, and delete that one?
I was trying to make it a little bit bigger for everyone to see. Sorry. Okay.
Sure.
Wipe that one out. I don't know.
Yeah. And then so one thing I like to do, the query composer we were using before with the checkboxes is nice. That's a good visual. Once you get quicker though, and you are more familiar with your schema, one thing I really like to do is control space to get autocomplete. So if you just click on the white area, and let's start a query. So just do query post. How about? Or get post would probably be a better name. Yeah, query get post and then curlies. So do get post singular.
Because we're doing the single post.
There we are. Yep, that looks good. Yeah, so from here I usually do control space, and it's really cool. You get autocomplete.
Oh, sweet.
So and as you start typing, it'll just automatically filter the list. So if you type like PO, it'll start.
PO. So we need to go into post.
Yeah, now curlies, and now control space again. And now it just knows what level of nesting you're at. So it knows, oh, here's everything available on post. So from here we could do, the things that we care about. So we probably want the title and content, things like that.
Kind of just auto-populates it too without me having to.
Yeah.
Why are these?
Type ID. Okay. Yeah. So it's telling us, you're saying you want a singular post, but not telling us which one, right? We have to. It wants an ID of some kind. So that's one interesting thing about this query then. So unlike our other one where we're getting a list of posts and we didn't need any arguments, this query will actually need one argument to tell GraphQL which post we want. So we can do that one. Let's see. So right there, let's do some parentheses and then $slug. Colon, and then ID, all caps, exclamation point.
That means it's required, right?
Exactly. Yep. And then, and another set of parentheses here. And do ID. And then we'll pass in that $slug. And we have one more step, and that is we have to tell GraphQL what type of ID. Because in WordPress land, there are a few different ways of identifying a post. You could do it by its slug, or by its database ID, or by its URI. There are a couple different ways there. So in this case, we're going to do ID type. So if you start typing that,
Oh,
there
and
you go.
it started auto-populating that there. Nice.
Yep, colon, and then slug in all caps.
In all caps.
SLUG.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's an so ID type is an enum. So that one there's only a finite set of things that you can choose.
I had not seen this before. Is this a WordPress thing specifically? Or is this GraphQL?
So the Wpgraphql project follows a specific like version of the GraphQL spec called the relay specification. And I believe this is like a thing that's commonly done in relay. You tell it like, here's the ID of the item, and then the ID type is either it's an ID or a slug or whatever. So
Okay.
yeah, so the Wpgraphql project has kind of followed suit and implemented the same thing.
So that makes sense. This is
relay
kind of initiating the variable slug, and we're telling it that it's in an ID, and then we're using that ID and using the slug.
Yep, exactly. So if we try to fire this off right now, it'll crash and burn. Since it'll say, "Wait, you haven't given me a slug, right?"
Yep.
So that's you got it. Yeah, query variables at the bottom. We can pop open some curlies, and then you can even do autocomplete here, which is super cool. Yeah, so it knows
that is really nice.
there's slug, and yeah, so from here we can grab a slug. So do you want to maybe in a new tab we can go back to the blog
Over
page
here
in WordPress.
Oh,
not
in
our front end,
WordPress.
not our
Okay.
front end. Yeah, so if you want to do like, yeah, there we go. Yeah, just navigate to like posts again and just find a random post on the list. I added one more for us.
And
there
is
we go.
that the
So,
last thing here?
not in that URL. If it was published, then that would, yeah, you would find in the URL. We should see on this screen though. Let's see. It's stacking because it's on mobile, but it should still be there. So open it back up again for editing. Go to edit again.
Go to editing again. Edit.
Yep. And then scroll down. I think it should be toward the bottom. No, I think we need the sidebar probably. So hit, see the 3 dots?
3 dots, yep.
In the upper right. Yeah, so we need our sidebar back. Sorry, how about the gear? Hit the gear.
I was trying to make it bigger for everyone, and I messed it all up.
All right, and now go to post. So see how block is highlighted at the top? Go to post instead. There we are. And this is all the info about our post. So in here, we should be able to find the slug. So if you expand, I think it's under permalink probably.
It's got this.
Is this one unpublished?
P = 6. I thought we published it, and it says switch to draft up here, so I would assume that means it is published.
Okay. Let me just remember where the slug is.
Able to create fields, and like I usually create a slug field on my post.
In other CMSs, you mean?
Yeah.
Got it. WordPress generates that automatically, so we should have it.
Okay.
And let me see. Hello world. Oh, I think we made a silly mistake here. So I'll blame myself for this one. So our WordPress has this concept of permalinks, and you tell it, what the structure of your post should look like to users on the front end. So right now it's set to just P = the ID of the post. So it's not even using slugs at this point.
Okay.
So that was my dumb mistake. Let's do this. So save changes. All right. So I set it to use the post name right now, which should give it a slug.
So do I need to refresh?
Yeah, let's refresh. And now under permalinks, you should see yours.
There we go.
There we go. Sorry for the confusion. My fault on that one.
And we need to go back here and put that in there.
Yes.
Why is slug does not appear in any GraphQL query, but it does.
Interesting.
What happens if I do that? It works.
Huh. Maybe just a bug or something.
Yeah, interesting. But it's pulling the single post now. It looks like we just have like a...
Cool.
debug thing down there. That's extra, but
yeah.
so we
Yeah,
have our new query there. So let's replace this query. I am grabbing, oh my goodness, should do whole thing. Now I have too many curlies. Okay. There, that's better. And down here, instead of post, we're going to have post. So I'm going to change that in both places. And how is this data going to be structured coming back out of this? We're going to have to do something different where we get like the params, right?
Yeah. So let's see. So you pasted your query above there, right?
Yes, I did.
All right. And that has all the same stuff. So let me scan it real quick. Yeah, that all looks good. Yeah. So inside of our body that we're JSON.stringifying right there, that takes a few arguments. So one is query that we're passing already. But after query, if we do put a comma, we can also pass variables.
Okay, is that lowercase variables? Oh,
Yep.
it's just
all lowercase. Yeah, so I'd probably, how about let's put those two on their own line? I'll probably, or yeah, that works too. All right, and then variables, we can do slug, colon, and then grab that. So in Svelte land, that would be page.params.slug. And then page will need to get, oh, you already passed it in. Beautiful.
Yeah, so I passed in page up here. This may have changed recently, I feel like, but maybe it didn't. So hopefully not. They were renaming some of this stuff, and they did rename it to stuff. We can now destructure stuff from up here.
Yep.
It's a little confusing. All right. My prettier is not working today, and it's driving me crazy when everything is like not aligned.
Well, we opted out.
Oh, we opted out. I do have it installed globally, but sometimes it just doesn't work for me. But yeah, okay.
Got it.
That's true. That's my bad. I opted out of it. Okay, so here we now are getting variables back with the page param that's coming off of our URL up on our site. So it should grab like the page param of each of these, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that one, since I changed the URL structure, the P = 1, won't be used anymore. So it should be different now. If you hover over your links there, do you get something different?
Post 3,
cool.
blog postma, and
now
hello. Perfect.
Now they're set up to use the slug. Okay.
Yep.
So if we follow one of those, does it crash and burn, or do we get? Well, I guess we're not outputting anything yet.
Yeah, we're not outputting anything, and we're not getting the right thing back here either.
Good point. Good point. Yep. So our structure, what would it look like? It would just be, so our response object dot data.
That's data, and that's it. Okay.
Yeah, that would just be the post itself.
Okay, and then the post, and then we need to do our other script tag and export let post. And then down here, we probably need an HTML block, or
yeah, I would.
How does this work?
I like doing like an article tag for a blog post.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then inside of that, just to get something on the page, we could do an H1 with post.title.
Oh yeah, H1. My bad.
No worries.
Post.title. And then our content. How do we get our content?
Yep. So that one, probably a div makes the most sense. Yeah, so let's do a div, and then inside of that post.content. Section sounds good. Yep.
Post.content.
And then this is another scenario where that'll be escaped, because post.content is like all pre-rendered HTML. So this is another case where we'll need the @HTML.
Okay. So I'm actually going to wrap that section HTML. I don't know if it really needs to be a section because it's an article. Page and load function has been replaced by URL and params. So, yeah,
Okay.
params, let's try. And take this off. That's what I thought. Like that had changed.
Got it. Yep. You called it.
And it's still undefined.
Undefined. Okay.
So we're not getting something.
The bug hunting begins.
Post. Save that. Open this back up. That's getting the post back up there.
Okay. So it's not being passed as props.
Export let post props. It's returning props. What does this do down here? I'm getting the posts back in the browser. Huh. Are we destructuring these off correctly? Post.title? It is post.title.
Yeah, that should be right.
Post.title and post.content. I'm just going to try to restart the server because that's a really weird.
That all looks correct to me.
It looks correct to me, and that's kind of weird to me that it's going to the right spot. I'm getting the data back.
That's all that really matters. If it looks correct, ship it. That's what I say.
Ship it. Just ship it.
The code looked correct, so I pushed it up. What's the big deal if it doesn't work?
Absolutely. Ship it on Friday afternoon. I had someone recently say that they were going to production on Saturday. I'm like, well, it's not Friday, but someone said in res object. Is there something here in res object we didn't do?
Res object dot data.
I mean, the data's coming back here. We console logged post. Is there a race condition or something like that happening?
I don't think so.
I'm going to try
post. So your console log on line 38, that worked just fine?
It did.
Weird.
In the browser there. And that gave me an error. Nope. There it is. But undefined. So this is coming out. That is really strange.
What the heck? I have not
and it comes out fine on this page. Undefined.
And it's not a string or anything, right? Because we're doing res.json, so that should be an object.
It is an object. I can show you.
Anyway.
Here's an object, and it's post, and we're grabbing title, and we're grabbing content off of post.
Try to debug using pre in the template. Someone says.
Curly's there.
Object. Okay, does that mean there's another level?
Yeah, I think so. That means we're not going in far enough. JSON.stringify.
Okay, so do we have data?
Post.
Oh, it's no. It should be response object dot data dot post is.
Yep. Somebody just said try instead of wrapping that in curly's there. That sounds like a good plan to me.
Okay.
Oh, that didn't work either. Oh, there it is. Perfect. That's what it was. We had it wrapped in curly's up here, so we were wrapping another object around it, and so then we were a level deeper than we needed to be. Thank you. That is exactly what it was. So I think we are running up on time here. So we actually have a working blog now. Sorry, we ran into a couple of issues. We got some new SvelteKit things. It looks like they've had a few breaking changes lately that are pretty messing with some people. So I was going to actually talk a little bit. Yeah, we did. We made it. I was going to talk a little bit about like the shadow endpoints is kind of what they're calling it behind the scenes, but you could actually do all of this in a JavaScript endpoint if you wanted to and not have it in your markup or in your markup file. So
That is
that's
so
kind of
cool.
an interesting thing too, if you wanted it to be
I don't know
just on
much.
the server.
I don't know much about that. I'd love to learn more.
Yeah, that would be awesome. But I'm going to go ahead and push this up to GitHub. Yeah, if you look up Shadow Endpoints, I think you'll find the PR that merged, and they've still got some bugs because it just happened like 2 weeks ago, but it's pretty interesting stuff. It's going to allow for some pretty powerful things. You don't have to have like those .json, .js files anymore, which is pretty cool. So gh repo create. I've got the GitHub CLI, not a Git repository, Git init. Then we can gh repo create. Good, that's good. Public, yes. Then we want to add all of our changes, commit them. I'm just going to put a init, whoops, and git push, and it's going to yell at me. And it did master git checkout -b main git push origin main. That way we don't have a master branch up there. For some reason, I guess VS Code's version still does master, like when you do git init, even though GitHub and everything else has switched. So that is available at github.com. And we will look for WordPress blog Postma. I'll paste that in the chat for everyone. That is such a great name. I'm so happy about that. And let's see if my camera.
Now you have to make a real blog. That's tell people head over to blog Postma.
Yeah, absolutely. My camera is still being really slow and laggy, so I don't know what's happening with my computer, but we'll restart it now that I'm all done. So, thank you so much, Kellen. That was so much fun, and I'm excited for how easy that was. I've always thought of WordPress as being this bear I didn't want to touch, but this made it much more. It seemed much easier to me than I had in my head that it was going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people have that experience with Wpgraphql in particular. It makes it so easy. And there's even WP Engine and some of the folks I work with, they're even creating this new tool called Atlas Content Modeler, which will be allow you to like scaffold out content models really similar to what you might do in a lot of the popular headless CMSs out there, like Contentful, Strappy, Prismic, some of those. So I'm really excited for that. That'll be, remember at the top of the episode, we talked about like, once you get into custom data, then you might have to write, some PHP or cobble together a few plugins. That plugin has got me excited because that will bring WordPress to in line with all those others, where it'll be like, create a project model. It has these custom fields, it has whatever. It's already in the GraphQL schema. Just query for it.
Wow,
Like,
that will be
it'll be cool.
Much easier than it even is now. I mean, it was already easy, but that is incredible.
And
well.
I say will be, but that plugin is out already, but it's early days. So they're still actively adding, support for different field types and stuff. So check that out.
Thank you so much, Kellen, for giving us this tour of Wpgraphql and letting us integrate with SvelteKit. Thank you, everyone, for coming and joining us today. In 2 weeks, we have Luke Edwards on, and we will be... I don't even remember what we're doing. Is that bad?
Too many guests. Keep track of.
I do. I do all of the scheduling, and so we have these streams every 2 weeks, and we have a talk every month. So I'm doing probably 10 different ones right now.
Dang.
That I've like got to get into the content management system, get all the information, and I'm really bad at keeping track of everything. Everything has to go on my calendar, or I do not remember it. So
I'm the same. No worries.
All right. Well, join us in 2 weeks. Luke Edwards is going to be here. It's a surprise. We will get the event up in the Discord, and you will know what it is later today. So thank you all for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Brittany. Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thanks. See ya.